Hi everyone and welcome back to the crafty yellow camper and my extremely untidy desk. I'm going to apologise now because it's not going to get any tidier during this video. Okay, so today's card that I've got to show you is using the Petal Park stamp set. This doesn't come with dies, it comes with a punch instead. So that's the punch. So you've got 3 flowers and a leaf on the punch, and then there are some other stamps on here. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be retiring when we come to the end of the current annual catalogue at the end of April. So I wanted to get in a couple of videos using it because I really quite like it. Okay, so as I say, Petal Park, and we're going to be using these stamps here, or I'm using these ones actually, but there are 2 sets of each. So you can sort of fill them in if you want, like a 2-step stamp. So if you notice, there's each set of images. So that all comes on one, that all comes on one, that's all on one, that's all on one, and the leaves come on one. So you can either stamp the outline, which is what I'm going to use today, or you can fill them in. I wanted to use the outline. Okay, I've gone ahead and done my punching because I end up with it at a funny angle, but I will talk you through that in a second. Okay, so what I've done, I have got half a sheet of Tahitian tide. I'm just going to put this card to one side for a second and I'll bring in the bits I prepared earlier. So our colours today are Tahitian tide, sweet sorbet, parakeet party, and orchid oasis, and I'm also using some whisper white crafting. So these 4 are 4 of the in colours that will be retiring at the end of April. So there are 5 new in colours that you'll see soon in the new annual catalogue, which is available from the beginning of May. I have actually got them early, so I might give you a sneak peek at them in another video. As a demonstrator, you can purchase up to a month early. One good reason to become a demonstrator. So these are 4 of the 5. The other one is Starry Sky that is going to be retiring, as I said. Again, like the colours, so I thought we'd use them. So what I've got here, I've used Tahitian tide cardstock, and I've got half of an A4 sheet. So this is 14.8 by the whole width of a card sheet, folded in half, which gives us a standard C6 base, but we're going to use it this way around, so with the fold at the top. Okay, and then what I've done, I've taken another piece of Tahitian tide and I've used the postage stamp dies. These are an online exclusive, so I've used the biggest one. You can see that fits in there. I've used the biggest postage stamp die to cut out my panel, and then I've embossed it with one of the embossing folders which comes in the sort of basics pack. Sorry, it is on my desk. I'm just beginning to look for it. So this is the basics embossing folders. Again, they're an online exclusive. So you get 3 embossing folders. So there's one that's got dots, almost like bubbles, one that's a sort of textile texture, and this one I've used which has got sort of little flowers. I suppose they could be described as starfish really as well. So anyway, the important thing when you want to emboss something, hopefully you can see that on there, the important thing when you want to emboss something is to die cut it first, because if you emboss your piece of cardstock first, then run it through to die cut it, you will flatten out the embossing, because obviously our cut and emboss machine is just a large rolling mill. So cut first to get your shape, then run it through the embossing folder, which is what I've done on that. I've also got a smaller one of the postage dies, and this is the largest one of the smaller ones. Hope that makes sense. So that fits in there. So you get 2 really big ones, which are sort of a matte layer and then a slightly smaller matte layer for a C6 card. And then you get these 1, 2, 3, 4 sizes of rectangles there, and then 2 sizes of squares, another rectangle here, but this one's only got the edges on it, so that's really good for like a ticket stub. And then there's a little tab top there, and there's the little postage sort of franc mark, if you like. It's got a little butterfly in the middle, which is quite cute. So I've used those. So let's start to put this together. Oh, I'll just talk you through the punch. So I've left my stamp on the ink block so that you can see. So this is the stamp. This is all 3 flowers on one, and this fits the punch. So if I bring in the punch and show you, you can see that they fit like that. Hopefully you can see that. So that's the punch, and that's the stamped images. Now obviously you have to remember they won't fit like that because you're turning it over to stamp, so bear that in mind. Now I've found the best way to get these to line up when they're a multiple image on one stamp, particularly with photopolymer, because photopolymer will stretch when you pull it off the plastic that it's mounted on. So what I tend to do is just punch this out from a scrap piece of paper. And where's my scrap piece of paper? This is just, you can just see, this is one where I've just been stamping off the stamp as I've used it. So I punch it out of a scrap piece of paper. So don't forget, with our punches, you open the button and open it. And then what I've done is I've gone in and I've stamped it. Sorry, punched it out. So imagine I've done that. And then what I do is I get my photopolymer stamp and then I offer it up into those gaps. So let me just take it off. Okay, so this is our photopolymer stamp. So what I do is I then offer that up to the image that I've punched on my scrap piece of paper. Then I bring in my block and press it down so that I know that that is perfectly lined up to match this punch. And believe me, even though you think you've got it lined up and you haven't stretched it, only needs to be a few millimeters out and you won't be able to punch all 3 of those in one go. Ask me how I know. Anyway, so let's put that to one side. So that's that. The other thing that's actually on this punch is this leaf. Now you could, if you wanted to, again, punch it out. Now you can see I've just missed the leaf off here because I only wanted the flower. But you could, again, go in and punch it right the way in, and then you could line up that leaf so that it fits on here as well. But obviously I wanted the leaf a different colour, so what I did was exactly the same theory. Punched it out of a piece of scrap paper, lined up the stamp, put my block on the back. So that's just a pro tip to get that lined up if you're stamping more than one item. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to bring my piece of scrap paper back in, because what we're going to do is use the Craft White ink. Now, this is a pigment ink, as opposed to all of our other inks like this are water-based. So these are a water-based dye ink. This is a pigment ink, so it needs a little bit longer to dry, and it's a bit of a different texture. So if you buy one of these, you can see mine's quite an old one because it's the old style. When you buy a Stampin' Up! Whisper White craft ink pad, it comes uninked, and you will get a bottle of ink like this. Now this is more gooey, if you like, than the water-based ink. You'll see when I open it. So mine is a bit of a yellowy colour because it's quite old, it's well used, and it's been re-inked several times. But when you re-ink it, you don't need to put much on, just put a little bit. So normally with these water-based pads, you would put dots of ink on and then spread it out with a old gift card or something plastic to spread it out. You can do it with your bone folder, but that can stain your bone folder, so I use an old gift card. But with this, you will more than likely have to re-ink it when you get it out because it dries out quicker. So you can see I haven't got that much ink on there, and you don't need loads. And all we're going to do is ink over the embossed piece of cardstock just to bring that pattern out a bit more and make it stand out a little bit against our Tahitian tied background. Now you don't really need to do the middle because we're going to be putting another piece in there, but you do need to make sure that you do all of the outside and enough of the outside. Try not to screw your card up. Enough of the outside that you won't see any uninked pieces. So I'm just going to bring my square into the middle and offer that, or rectangle, offer that up, and I can see that I've covered the bits I need to cover. So I'm just going to pop that out of the way. Okay, now as I said, I've gone ahead and I have stamped and punched my flowers because you don't need to see me do that. So I'll get rid of that piece of scrap paper. As I said, this does take a little bit longer to do dry, and in an ideal world I would leave it on here to dry, but we need to crack on. So I'm using Tombow because on an embossed section, I mean, you can use Seal Plus. I probably wouldn't use anything that was less than Seal Plus because it needs something to grip the embossed pattern. And I've often found in the past, if you use a tape runner or tear and tape, it doesn't necessarily stick so well. Okay, now I'm getting white fingers there because I haven't let that dry, but as I said, we need to move on. Okay, so then what I've got is I've got my small postage stamp, and again I'm going to use Tombow to stick that down. Obviously use whatever medium of adhesive you prefer. I'm a big Tombow fan. Okay, and I'm going to pop that in the middle. So I'm just sort of eyeballing that to line it up. Okay, so that's the base of our card. Now we're going to bring in our flowers, but I'm also going to bring in this. So this is a foam mat. It's a piercing mat, basically. But I'm going to use it to shape my flowers. So we're going to have one of the big blue flowers and one of the little blue flowers. And then there are 3 flowers on that punch, as we said. So I've got a medium size red. And you can see that didn't properly line up. And I've got a small red. So it's not going to make a huge drama on this, as you'll see why. So again, I'm bringing in my Tombow. If you haven't got a Tombow and you've got a ball tool, then you want quite a large ball on it. 1 or 2 of my sort of take your pick type tools, but not take your pick. I've got a ball tool on them, but I find it really easy with the Tombow because you've got a nice rounded end on your fine tipped end. So all you need to do is push your Tombow in and give it a wriggle round, and you can see it will shape. Hopefully you can see that it will shape your flower. So let's go back and do the others. Now the center of that flower is slightly off center, so I've followed where that is. These are in the middle. Now this one that didn't quite punch out properly, once we've done that and the edges are curled up, you're not really going to notice that it didn't punch out properly. Okay, so on the backs of these I'm putting mini dimensionals. Actually, you can see when I turn it over how much it's pushed the middle of that down. Some people spray them to sort of loosen the fibres, but then you have to wait for them to dry, and I'm impatient, so and obviously it's going to get flattened down a little bit in its card anyway. So I'm just adding the mini dimensionals. So these come in white. The bigger ones we can get in white and black. I'm just going to bring over my little jar. Any of you that have watched my videos before will know I have this little tiny jam jar that I collect all the dimensional backs in because the things go everywhere. Okay, so I'm bringing my card back in, and I'm going to... What did I do with the other card? I have no clue what I did with the other... Oh, here it is. Doesn't matter if it's not the same, but I'm going to put 3 up on this top side. So I'm using the red. You could muddle them up. You could put some of the red and some of the blue, but I'm going to stick to the same colour. And then the blue ones are going to go down here. And then these little ones. On this side, we're just having 2 blue ones. And on this side, we've got 3. So that makes 5 altogether. And you want to stick to odd numbers of things as a rule on your cards. Okay, and then we've got some leaves. So, how many leaves? Now, I wanted 3. I've only got 2 left. That's fine. I'll punch another one and add another one there. You can see on here, I've got 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. Again, remember, odd odd numbers. So if I was to just add 2 onto this card, it might look a little bit unbalanced. Oh, or not. Anyway, we're going with small dimensionals again, and make sure you get the leaf the right way up. So on this, you can see the veins go, the veins go in one direction, and obviously leaves have the veins pointing up. So we don't want them pointing down, we want them pointing up. So just make sure you put them in. Put your dimensional on the right end. It's not a huge drama if you don't, because you can just stick it up the other way with the dimensional at the top end, but I think this will work better with it that way down. Okay, and then just to finish it off, I'm going to bring in some of our Rhinestone Basic Jewels. This is a new packet, so I'm just going to open it up. And I always fold the sticky end under, otherwise you end up getting it stuck to the back of the piece with the jewels on. And oh, it's a drama. And it is actually stuck to the piece of card. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my pokey tool in. Excuse my arm going across there. I'm going to use some of the larger ones on the big flower. Oh, ends come out. For some reason, this one doesn't stay in as well as my other one. But this is the one that lives on my desk. So, okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a Wink of Stella pen for the smaller flowers. I mean, you could put a gem on every one if you wanted to. But that's quite a lot of gems. And I'm a bit tight with my embellishments. Right, there we go. So I've just added a little bit of Wink of Stella to that. So that's our card, and then we need an insert. So I'm just going to grab a piece of basic white, and this is cut to 14.3 by 10. And I'm just going to bring in this little trio of flowers, and we've used Tahitian Tide, so I'm going to bring the Tahitian Tide. Now, those of you that watch my videos fairly regularly will know that I rarely put a greeting in until I'm ready to send this card. So what I tend to do is stamp my insert to match my card, and I might sometimes stamp the envelope to match as well, but I don't stick it in. I leave it in there, and then when I want to put a sentiment on it, then I can go to it. This one I have stuck in just to show you, and I'll just make sure I'm really careful when I stamp a sentiment, or I might not put a sentiment in it. Anyway, those are our cards. I hope you like them, and I hope you'll give it a try if you've got this set. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video for you. Happy stamping, and bye for now.